Sergei Naryshkin, the head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service (SVR), has made a striking assertion regarding the shifting dynamics of global alliances amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. In an interview with Razvedchik magazine, Naryshkin contended that an increasing number of the United States' traditional allies are re-evaluating their alignment with Washington's policies, particularly concerning the protracted war in Ukraine. According to Naryshkin, nations across Asia, Africa, and Latin America are increasingly approaching Moscow, seeking Russian involvement in addressing the Ukrainian crisis and expressing a desire for Russia to assume a more proactive role in shaping the region's future. Naryshkin's comments underscore a broader narrative that Russia has been advancing in recent months, portraying itself as a counterweight to Western dominance and a champion of multipolarity in global affairs. As the conflict in Ukraine grinds on with no resolution in sight, Russia's leadership has sought to position the country as a viable alternative partner for nations dissatisfied with what they perceive as the United States' unilateralism and coercive diplomacy. This narrative has gained traction in parts of the Global South, where historical grievances against Western colonialism and interventionist policies still resonate. The SVR chief's remarks suggest that Russia is increasingly framing its involvement in Ukraine not only as a matter of national security but also as part of a broader strategy to realign global power structures. By courting countries from diverse regions such as Asia, Africa, and Latin America, Moscow is leveraging its diplomatic relationships to counterbalance Western influence and garner international support, albeit limited, for its position on Ukraine. This strategy is consistent with Russia's long-standing efforts to build alliances through mechanisms such as BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO), where economic and political partnerships often bypass traditional Western-led institutions. Naryshkin also hinted at a growing disillusionment among some U.S. allies, who are reportedly questioning the efficacy and morality of Washington's approach to Ukraine. The prolonged conflict, characterized by heavy military engagements, economic sanctions, and humanitarian crises, has strained relationships between the U.S. and its allies. Many countries, particularly those in the Global South, have expressed frustration over the economic repercussions of the war, including skyrocketing energy prices and disrupted supply chains, which have disproportionately impacted developing economies. Analysts suggest that Russia is capitalizing on these grievances to position itself as a mediator and potential peace broker in the Ukraine conflict. While such claims may be viewed skeptically in Western capitals, they reflect a calculated effort by Moscow to expand its influence and challenge the narrative that it is internationally isolated. By engaging with nations outside the traditional Western bloc, Russia seeks to demonstrate that its diplomatic reach extends beyond its immediate sphere of influence and into regions historically dominated by Western powers. However, the extent of this engagement remains unclear. While Russia has undoubtedly maintained and even deepened relations with countries like China, India, and Iran, its ability to galvanize widespread support for its actions in Ukraine faces significant limitations. Many nations in Asia, Africa, and Latin America have adopted a neutral or cautiously critical stance on the conflict, emphasizing the importance of a peaceful resolution while avoiding direct condemnation of either side. This balancing act reflects their desire to maintain beneficial relations with both Western powers and Russia, particularly in a global environment marked by economic uncertainty and geopolitical tensions. Despite these challenges, Naryshkin's remarks highlight a critical dimension of the Ukraine conflict, its implications for global power dynamics and the evolving role of non-Western states in shaping international policy. For Russia, this represents an opportunity to strengthen its partnerships with nations that feel marginalized or overlooked by Western-led initiatives. For these nations, engaging with Russia offers a chance to diversify their diplomatic and economic options, reducing dependence on any single bloc and asserting greater agency in international affairs. The United States and its allies, meanwhile, face the challenge of addressing these shifts without alienating potential partners. As dissatisfaction with the perceived consequences of the Ukraine war grows, particularly among developing nations, Western policymakers will need to adapt their strategies to accommodate the concerns of the Global South. Failure to do so risks further eroding the influence of Western-led coalitions and creating openings for Russia and other powers to expand their reach. Naryshkin's assertions also reflect a broader ideological contest that has emerged alongside the Ukraine war. While the US and its allies frame their support for Ukraine as a defense of democracy and international norms, Russia counters with a narrative that critiques Western hegemony and promotes a multipolar world order. This ideological divide is not just about Ukraine but about competing visions for the future of global governance, with profound implications for international stability and cooperation. The SVR chief's claims come at a time when the Ukraine conflict is entering a particularly volatile phase. Despite significant military and economic assistance from Western nations, Ukraine continues to face immense challenges on the battlefield and in its efforts to rebuild war-torn regions. Meanwhile, Russia shows no sign of relenting, doubling down on its military objectives and seeking to consolidate its hold over contested territories. Against this backdrop, the prospect of a diplomatic resolution appears increasingly remote, even as the human and economic toll of the war continues to mount. For Russia, the outreach from countries in the global south, as described by Naryshkin, provides a glimmer of validation for its approach. Whether this translates into meaningful support for Moscow's actions in Ukraine, however, remains to be seen. Many of these nations are likely to prioritize their national interests over taking sides in a conflict that does not directly involve them, maintaining a careful balance between competing global powers. In sum, Naryshkin's remarks serve as a reminder of the far-reaching implications of the Ukraine conflict, which extends beyond Europe to influence the geopolitical calculations of nations around the world. As Russia seeks to reposition itself on the global stage, its ability to build alliances and challenge Western narratives will play a crucial role in shaping the outcome of this multifaceted and increasingly global struggle.